Why? Hello Skele Vaderites and friends of Skele Vader. I'm really excited to talk about today's subject matter. Recently I received a comment on one of my videos asking me, why do you open collectibles? Why would you not leave them mint on card? Is essentially what the question was asking. And that is a huge question that toy collectors should be asking themselves. Why do I open my toys? Why do I leave them on card? What's the best possible route for this? And I'm gonna spend some time today with you all to let you know why I do what I do with my toys, because I actually think a lot about this. In fact, I leave some stuff mint on card, and I definitely open up my toys as well. So really it goes back to why I enjoyed toys as a kid. So when I was a kid, I wasn't the type of person that would save my toys in packages. I grew up in a rural area. I would go outside and I'd spend a lot of time playing with my toys out in the wilderness. I'd build forts for them. I'd have so much fun, dig caves, do all that, throw them in the creek, get them out, run around. It was so much fun. When I decided as an adult to start collecting toys again, the first thing that I wanted to do was collect toys that I had as a kid. I have very few toys that remain from my childhood. And the ones that I wanted to collect the most were the ones that I played with a lot and that I had attached strong memories to. There were some things like Skeletorn Beastman that I never had that I wanted to have as an adult. And so that's some territory I entered into as well, but I treated both of those categories the same way. I wanted to hold them in my hands. I wanted to experience the nostalgia as a tactile thing. And I also wanted to do toy photography. Now, I hadn't done toy photography before I started collecting as an adult collector. And so having the opportunity to take these toys out into the world and take photographs of them and also mix the IPs like Star Wars with Masters of the Universe, that type of thing, was really exciting to me. Also mixing vintage with newer ones too. Very, very cool and so much fun. That is the primary reason why I open most of my action figures. I want to be able to check the articulation. I want to actually hold this thing and pose it the way I want to, as if I'm a curator of my own museum. I just love creating little arenas for my displays. I wouldn't necessarily call this a diorama, or would I? I have definitely a recessed area between these books. I have all of these Sesame Street figures, these reaction figures lined up here. And I have Statler and Waldorf there. And these books are all important to me. And now I've got Muppets, which are very important to me. And those are Sesame Street and the Muppet Show Muppets. And then I also have Castle Grayskull on top, and they are flanked on both sides with books that are important to me. So being able to do that with my toys or my collectibles, whether they be books, records, toys, I like to be able to display them. My wife calls me a maximalist, and I certainly am when it comes to my collectibles, but I'm very careful and thoughtful about the way I organize them and the way that they look on the shelf as a display. That part of toy collecting brings me pure joy. I've definitely opened stuff that I wish I would have kept them in their packages, but I still have those items and I still appreciate them. So let's talk about the types of items that I do keep on card when I can and when I have the urgency to do so, or I feel the drive to keep them in that condition. Number one, and I'm just going to start off with this one because I think it's the best representation of this. A few years ago, I did a trade with a person who is in some of the Motu collecting communities on Facebook, and he sent this to me, and it's Beastman from the 2000X or Mike Young Productions cartoon series but it's a variant of Beastman in green armor and green loincloth. But look at this, it's in merman packaging. So that is a reason to keep this mint on card. And then there are other things too that incentivize me to keep toys mint on card or mint in their boxes. For instance, as I've recently talked about, the Star Wars Retro Collection figures, which has basically been reissuing figures that we had and some that we never had, and some from the newer shows in the classic Kenner vintage 3.75 inch scale. And sometimes they look exactly like they looked in vintage form. And in this case, these two bounty hunters, Forlom and Zuckuss, when they were originally released, the vintage versions of these were originally released, they were released like this. Zuckuss here was in a package that said Forlom, and Forlom here was in a package that said Zuckuss. And that's a reason for me to keep these mint on card and hanging on a wall rather than on a shelf. And I do have my vintage Forlom and Zuckuss right here and on display in my case of opened Kenner action figures. And that brings me to another reason why most of my collection is loose, and that is that some of this vintage stuff, I simply can't afford to buy them mint on card. I definitely cannot afford to buy Masters of the Universe or Star Wars figures that were of the era mint on card. So a 1983 Beastman, I can't afford that mint on card. An original release of Forlom or Zuckuss mint on card, especially if they have the mixed up names, I definitely can't afford that. Having them loose allows me to own them, but also I don't have to fork over a chunk of change that I really should not be spending. And then sometimes a reason to keep something mint on card is simply the novelty of it. Maybe the packaging is the actual focus or the exciting aspect of this collectible, period. And in this case, Super 7 reaction figure The Invisible Man that came out on April Fool's Day, this one has an actual invisible action figure inside the packaging. It's just an empty bubble on a card back. I think it cost me $4 plus $4 shipping and handling, and it was only available on April Fool's Day. I think it was 2019 or something like that. I'll tell you what year. 2019. And there were a bunch of Universal monsters that came out that year from Super 7, from the Reaction line, and this one I absolutely had to have. Invisible Man, genuinely invisible, in an empty bubble on a beautiful card back. So there you have it, folks. That's the main reason why I collect most of my stuff loose. I like to enjoy the tactile qualities of these figures, and most of the time that's the best way I can afford to experience them. The new stuff that I open it up because I want to play with them, and then I want to display them. So there you have it. The mint stuff, the stuff that I keep mint on card, I'm definitely keeping those in that condition because I've chosen to do that. Folks, collect for the joy of collecting. Don't collect just because something might be worth more money in the future. Ask yourself, am I collecting just as an investment? I mean, it's your prerogative if you want to do that. But for me, I feel like collecting is a joyous activity, and I want it to remain so. Every once in a while, I'll get a little bit excited or hung up on something that might be worth money, or I'll see something online that's worth a lot of money, and I wish I would have gotten it back when it was affordable. But if I were to spend my days regretting those things or feeling sad about those things or wishing I had done something different, then I'm just spending my days in regret. As collectors, folks, enjoy what you collect. Do it the way you want to do it. If you want to melt them down and make something else out of it, by all means do it. If you want to make art out of your toy collections, like the singer of one of my favorite bands, the Melvins, He glued all these toys, these vintage toys, to a giant plank of wood and poured resin over them, and they're a ceiling panel in his studio rooms. I love that idea. Sure, do that. But if you love to collect things mint on card, absolutely do that too. Do it your way, folks. As long as it gives you joy, do it that way. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon of this channel, the link is right down below. That $3 a month gives you a lot of perks. So definitely consider that. If not, I just really appreciate you clicking like, hitting that subscribe button, telling your friends about the Skele Vader channel. And it means the world to me that you're here in the first place. And that one comment, I love things like that because they inspire me, they make me think about what I'm doing, and they make me feel connected to you all. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Do it your way, folks.